Point Park basketball splits an away series, the NFL divisional round wraps up, and the Buckeyes take the crown. It's time to come on down to Pioneer Sideline. Good evening and welcome to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Bryn Reese, back for another week of exciting sports news. To start, Point Park women's basketball traveled to Maryland on Saturday to take on the Frostburg State Bobcats in a Mountain East Conference matchup. After taking a small but steady lead in the first quarter, a 17-2 run from the Pioneers in the second quarter gave them a more than comfortable lead entering halftime. They held on to this throughout the end of the night, putting up a great selection of shots to ensure that the Pioneers come home with the dub. A fantastic team effort awarded them their third conference win, beating out the former number 3 ranked team 78-70. Now the Pioneers had a solid night offensively, going 40% from the field, and many defensive rebounds from Machado Ballo in particular awarded the Pioneers 18 second chance points. Bobcat Emily Weekly, who's averaging 27.6 points per game this season, dropped a bomb with 29 points in the night. But the Pioneers kept it under wraps on defense as two Frostburg State starters combined to go 0 for 13 from the field. Giles led Point Park once again with 19 points, followed by double-digit performances from Ballo, Ari Bleda, and Emma Pavlik. Ballo came just shy of a triple-double with 14 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists. The Pioneers are still second to last in the MEC with a 3-7 conference record, but they still have a solid fighting chance, only a few games back from a top 5 spot. The ladies go on to face the West Liberty Hilltoppers at home on Thursday. Next, Edmie Idalis gives us an update on track and field's first outing in the new year. Edmie?
Thanks, Bryn. This past Saturday, Point Park's track and field traveled to Kent, Ohio to participate in the Judd Logan Memorial Meet at Kent State University. Multiple men and women made the top 5 in Point Park's record history in their respective fields. Cassandra O'Connor placed third in the 3,000 with a time of 10 minutes and 11 seconds, which gave her the third fastest time in school history. Along with O'Connor, Dunya Van Den Toren became third for the longest high jump distance with her 1.58 meters high jump. Besides the record history, the women had a strong showing in the 1,000 meter race, with 2 runners in the top 5. Allison Placio placed first with a time of 3:07, and Lotte Zetov joined Placio in the top 5 with a time of 3 minutes 17 seconds. As for the men, Akeem Mustafa broke his own Point Park record with his long jump at 7.45 meters. Mustafa placed second in the long jump and 6th in the triple jump. 2 men managed to get the second best time in school history with their respective fields. Luke McKenna placed 13th in the 3,000 with a time of 8:50, which is now the second fastest time in school history. Kamar Sutherland placed 5th in the 60-meter hurdle preliminaries with a time of 8.33 seconds, giving him the second best time in school history. The last racer to breach to the top 5 was Chase Bowen. Bowen placed 11th in the mile run with a time of 4 minutes 25 seconds, the 4th fastest time in school history. To round out the men's eventful meet, Point Park placed second in the 4x4 relay with a time of 3 minutes 25 seconds with Christian Reed, Juan Barrera, Sutherland, Steve Bradley, and Yannick Windelband. Both track and field teams are headed to an eventful weekend at the Dr. Sanders Scorcher Invitational in Bronx, New York on Friday, January 24th and Saturday, January 25th. The teams will be traveling from Invitational to Invitational on Saturday as they head to the Ashland Collegiate Invitational in Ashland, Ohio the same day. Good luck, Pioneers! Now, for more updates on Point Park basketball, sending it back to you at the desk, Bryn.
Thanks, Edmie. Now, men's basketball found lesser fortune on Saturday against the Bobcats after a home court advantage clearly took its toll on the Pioneers. Frostburg State had an absolutely electric night, taking a double-digit lead less than 7 minutes into the game. The Pioneers had a glimmer of hope near the end of the half after a solid run thanks to Aiden Miller and Nazworth Fisher, but the Bobcats answered with 9 straight points to end the half up 14 points. And from here, things got real ugly. The Bobcats absolutely took off, increasing the lead up to 29 points 5 minutes into the second half. Not to mention 3 Bobcats dropped over 20 points in the night. The game ended 107-70 in favor of the Bobcats, giving the Pioneers their biggest loss this season. But it was all around a messy night as we saw 3 technicals, 2 to Point Park and 1 to Frostburg State. Now to talk stats, the Bobcats shot 53.5% from the field and 48.6% from 3 in 35 attempts. Bobcat Jay-Sean Freeman had a night unmatched with 28 points, going 11 for 15 from the field, and Kobe Baptiste followed with 27 points. Now, as for Point Park, Caden Warner, one of the best shooters in the MEC right now, went quiet with 8 points in the night, going 3 for 13 from the field. But freshman Aiden Miller had a night of his own, leading the Pioneers with 15 points and 60% field goal success. Now, the men took a big fall in the MEC standings this past week, stooping to 8th place with a 4-6 conference record. They are 9-7 overall. Now this week in Point Park sports, we have a basketball doubleheader on Thursday at home after a weather delay moved the matchups versus West Liberty anticipated for Wednesday, a day later. Then this weekend, track and field competes in 2 different states with several athletes traveling to New York City to compete in the Dr. Sanders Scorcher Invitational on Friday and Saturday, while the rest of the Pioneers will make their way to Ohio for the Ashland Collegiate Invitational on Saturday. Get all the news and more on PointParkSports.com and come back here next week for your weekly Point Park Sports Update. When we come back, more on what's happening in the sports world. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now we have Megan Lukic with a Pittsburgh Sports Update. Megan?
Thanks, Bryn. The Pitt men's basketball team took on Clemson this past Saturday, where a comeback in the second half was ultimately foiled at the end of as the game ended up going to overtime. Pitt had a strong opening 10 minutes to the game, but Clemson drew the score closer and led 40-30 at the end of the first half. It was a slow but steady comeback for the Panthers in the second half, where they outscored the Tigers 36-26, tying the game at 66 apiece at the conclusion of regulation. Pitt was not able to complete their comeback, however, as Clemson outscored them 12-9 in overtime, scoring a 3-pointer with 14 seconds left, which led the final score of 78-76. Pitt will head on the road this weekend to face off against Syracuse at 12:30 p.m. on Saturday. The Pittsburgh Pirates held their annual Pirates Fest this weekend, which gave fans the opportunity to meet players, coaches, and alumni for autograph signings, as well as participate in fun activities for all ages. During a Q&A session with the team's CEO, Travis Williams, a "Sell the Team" chant broke out among fans, to which Williams eventually addressed, saying, quote, "To answer your immediate question that you said earlier, Bob is not going to sell the team. He cares about Pittsburgh and he cares about winning. He cares about putting a winning product on the field, and we're working towards that every day." End quote. The Pirates will begin their first workouts for spring training in Florida on February 12th. The Pittsburgh Penguins kicked off a season-long 7-game road trip in Buffalo on Friday where they defeated the Sabres 5-2. The night was highlighted by Penguins goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic scoring a goal as well as picking up an assist, becoming the first goaltender in NHL history to do both in one game. Following a 4-1 loss to the Washington Capitals on Saturday, the Penguins traveled to Los Angeles to take on the LA Kings Monday night. The Penguins were without leading goal scorer Rickard Rakell, who had to return home to Pittsburgh for personal reasons, but that did not stop them, and the Penguins came out on top, defeating the Kings 5-1. Pittsburgh got goals from Kevin Hayes, Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Cody Glass, and Anthony Beauvillier. Alex Nedeljkovic was back in net and made 25 saves on 26 shots. The Penguins will continue their road trip as they travel to Anaheim for a matchup with the Ducks on Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Now I'll be passing things over to Gabe Ebersole for our weekly NFL recap. Gabe?
Thanks, Megan. The divisional round roller coaster has ended. Let's see which teams are the last four standing. The defending champions started their quest for the league's first three-peat on Saturday, welcoming the Texans to Arrowhead. The Chiefs were gifted a chance at a red-hot start, opening on Houston's 13-yard line. But the game's first three drives would result in field goals until a long Travis Kelce reception would set up Kareem Hunt for the opening six. Out of half, Houston would execute a 15-play, 10-minute drive capped off by running back Joe Mixon. But again, Travis Kelce answers the call, scoring on crucial third and goal from a highlight Patrick pass. Accounting for over two-thirds of the team's receiving yards on the day, this 7-catch, 117-yard effort vaulted him over Jerry Rice for most 100-yard receiving games in the postseason, now with 10. A Harrison Butker chip shot gave the Chiefs a 2-score lead, and a blocked field goal placed their reservation to their 7th straight AFC Championship game. But would the other 1 seed be so fortunate? Firepower at Ford Field, we got another Washington game with 2 punts total. This team plays must-see football. A game dictated by turnovers, Washington got the first big one with their backs against the goal line, stripping Goff on third and short pass. Marching the field and finishing with Brian Robinson, this touchdown would be the first of 6 in the second period. Next would come a highlight reel grab from Sam Laporta across the back boundary of the end zone. Then, the answer from scary Terry McLaurin, taking the screen blocks into the open field, where he will not be caught, going all 58 yards. Critical turnover number 2. Jared Goff defers on a check down hook, instead driving a smash concept right into the high safety, and that gets returned all the way to the house. Injured on a return block, Goff gets replaced by Teddy Bridgewater, who hands off to Jahmyr Gibbs, who then hands off to J-Mo Williams. Long touchdown to keep Detroit in it. Still plenty of time in the half for a response. Tight window throw to Zach Ertz takes Washington into the half with a 31-21 lead. The respective running backs would each score for the second time coming out of half, but the big play would come with just over 12 minutes left. On 1st and 10 from midfield area, Jamison Williams, airing it out on a trick play, finds the wrong hands along the sideline. A big 4th and 2 conversion set up the game-sealing touchdown, putting Washington up 17 points with 7.5 left. Washington finishes, stuns Detroit at Ford Field, and the only obstacle in their way of their first appearance since the OG Dream Team is a division rival next week. The Philadelphia Eagles rematched the Rams in a game that was so different, yet so similar to their first matchup. The Eagles again rode behind their rushing attack, but this episode was more about explosiveness than dominance. 3 touchdown runs accounted for over half of Philly's offensive yards on the day. Strike one was Jalen Hurts, recording his longest NFL run on a read option, going 44 yards for a touchdown on the opening drive. Matt Stafford would answer via Tyler Higbee, but after exchanging punts, the Rams would take their second strike. Saquon Barkley rides the blocks to perfection, through the crease 62 yards to the house. Game stays close through the third with snow on the field, gets even closer when Hurts takes a sack in the end zone, one of the 7 for the Rams defense on the day. But down 1 score with the ball, the Rams would fumble on their next 2 possessions, the first on a Kyren Williams carry, the second on a Stafford strip sack, while Philly got field goals on both of those trips. And after an LA 3-and-out, Saquon with a backbreaker for strike 3. He takes it 78 yards on the drive's first play, little shoulder shake on the inside zone, bounces it outside where no one is there to stop him for taking it for over 200 rushing yards on the day. LA would score and get the ball back to keep it interesting, but a red zone sack on 3rd and 2 drew the curtains on the 24 Rams season. Philly draws it a familiar opponent in Washington with a trip to the big old bowl on the line. Over 70,000 weathered the conditions to watch Buffalo battle Baltimore. It had shootout potential early, with Lamar scrambling to convert 3rd and long en route to a Rashad Bateman opening drive touchdown reception. Then, The Bills would convert their own 3rd and long, call upon number 17 on 4th and short, and continue mounting pressure until rookie running back Ray Davis rolled across the goal line. Then, Lamar would airmail a deep ball down the right sideline into the hands of Taylor Rapp, and after a Buffalo 3 and out, fumbled the ball in a strip sack by Damar Hamlin. Josh Allen took advantage of the short field on his own to take the lead before doubling down just before the half in response to a Justin Tucker field goal. King Henry would get going in the 3rd, racking up 58 rushing yards and a touchdown in the period. With a chance to tie after said Henry touchdown, the pass for the tight end fell incomplete and possibly foreshadowed the game's grand finale, keeping the score a 2-point game. The Ravens again worked into Buffalo territory, attempting to answer Buffalo's field goal before Mark Andrews records his 2nd lost career fumble at a very inopportune time. After the defense is able to hold the Bills to 3 again, a season-saving drive and redemption was in order with 3.5 ticks remaining. Andrews would make yet another 19-yard catch to set up tight end number 2, Isaiah Likely, for a touchdown, but now Baltimore again needed the 2. Lamar Jackson sprinting right, throws to the pylon in a brutal drop by Andrews. Instead of any chance at an AFC Championship rematch with Kansas City, Baltimore clears out the locker room while Josh Allen takes knees to MVP chance in the Bills' final home game of the season. The 3-0 turnover battled the difference, 27-25 Buffalo, and a classic nail-biter. The first team to make the NFL big game will be cemented next Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The Eagles are opening as 6-point favorites against the Commanders. But that's all from me this week in the NFL. Back to you at the desk, Bren.
Thanks, everyone. After the break, more breaking sports news. Don't go anywhere.
Take them cue and open their mics.
Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
Welcome back. Now we have Ryan Quinn reporting on the conclusion of the college football season. Ryan?
Thanks, Bryn. Last night, the college football playoffs came to an end as Notre Dame faced off against the Ohio State University to crown the first ever national champion in the 12-team format. The Fighting Irish were looking to become the first team since 1989 to be a national champion as an independent, and the Buckeyes were looking to win another chip on the back of a playoff expansion, winning back in 2015 when the playoff format was first at 4 teams. The game started off with an 18-play, almost 10-minute drive, which resulted in an Irish touchdown by Riley Leonard. The Buckeyes stayed focused, scoring TDs on 4 straight drives on the backs of QB Will Howard, running back Quinshawn Judkins, and freshman standout Jeremiah Smith, all 3 having amazing games when it mattered most. The Irish were on their heels, failing a 4th down conversion, and the Buckeyes made it 31 unanswered points with a field goal. But there's a reason why they're called the Fighting Irish. A 34-yard strike from Leonard to Jaden Greathouse made it in a 2-point conversion, made it 31-15. Fumble from projected first-round pick Admika Adbuka allowed Notre Dame a chance back, but a missed field goal dimmed their hopes. They're able to force a punt, and another touchdown for Greathouse made it 31-23. But at 3rd and 11, late in the 4th, a 56-yard bomb to Jeremiah Smith called the game. The Buckeyes kicked a field goal, and it was too late for Notre Dame as the final score was 34-23. After losing to their rivals Michigan in the last game of the regular season, taking them out of the Big Ten championship game, it looked like Ryan Day would not be able to get over the hump to make it to the national championship. But after an amazing run beating Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and now Notre Dame, it makes you forget that Michigan loss even happened. Congrats to the Ohio State University as they are your 2024-25 national champions. Next, McKenna Smith is here reporting on the Tennis Australian Open. McKenna?
Thanks, Ryan. The Australian Open is heating up as it nears the final stages. Novak Djokovic, who's chasing his 11th title in Melbourne and 25th Grand Slam overall, is through to the semifinals after a hard-fought win over Carlos Alcaraz. However, the 37-year-old faces challenges both on and off the court, with an Australian broadcaster labeling him as, quote, overrated and a has-been, end quote. With former rival Andy Murray as his coach, Djokovic now prepares to take on world number 2 Alexander Zverev in the semis. In the final 2 quarterfinals still to be played, world number 1 and defending champ Jannik Sinner is battling not only an illness, but a homegrown star in Alex de Minaur, who looks for yet another upset. Meanwhile, 21st ranked American Ben Shelton, back on his best after an injury setback, faces Italy's Lorenzo Sonigo, who's making his first ever Australian Open quarterfinal at the age of 29. Winners of both of these matches will face each other in the semis. Quarterfinal action is halfway through on the women's side as well. Madison Keys, the tournament's dark horse, with several upsets, is taking on underdog Elena Svitolina. Meanwhile, second-ranked Iga Swiatek, who has been dominant so far, faces American Emma Navarro to close out the round, with winners advancing in the semis. Already in the semifinals, defending champ and top seed Aryna Sabalenka eyes yet another title but faces very tough competition from Paula Deboza, who has stunned fans by eliminating favorite Coco Gauff in straight sets. Semifinals will begin for both men and women on Thursday. And that's all from me and the rest of us. Back to you at the desk, Bren.
Thanks, guys. Next, we discuss who will be hoisting the trophies at this year's NFL awards ceremony. Catch the action after the break. Welcome back. The NFL season is nearing its end with the annual awards ceremony coming soon after. I'm here with Ronan, Ryan, and Gabe to discuss who we expect to win each honor. So we're going to kind of go through each one here. We'll start out with the Rookie Awards. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Who do you guys think is going to get it?
I got Jaden Daniels.
I got Jaden Daniels as well.
I also have Jaden Daniels.
Okay, I feel like there's not much of a need to elaborate. We'll move on. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Who we got?
I also have Jared Verse.
Okay.
Jared Verse as well.
I have Jared Verse too.
All right, now we're going to go to Offensive Player of the Year. We might have a bit more of a conversation here. Ronan, who do you have for that one?
Jamar Chase.
Okay.
I have Saquon Barkley.
I also have Saquon Barkley.
All right, you're the odd one out here, Ronan. Let's get a bit of an explanation.
Well,
Why do you think?
the Bengals, they were not like a great team this year, but that offense was just so stellar. And I think with the combination of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase was averaging 100 yards and a touchdown every single game for every game of the year. I mean, that's consistency. And to me, he's a Triple Crown winner. I can see the argument for Saquon, but, I got Jamar Chase for those reasons.
Okay, either of you two? What you got?
Yeah, how can you not say Saquon? I mean, to be honest, this man has 2,000 yards rushing and another 250-plus receiving on the year. And then he also only has 345 carries. That is most of the offensive players the Eagles have run all year. And when I think of offensive player of the year, is a player that, like how Tyreek was last year, is the entire offense. And that's what Saquon is for the Eagles. I mean, I don't know what more you want from a running back from not to win the offensive player of the year. I understand Jamar Chase had like a Triple Crown type of year, but you can't take this away from Saquon. Saquon, this is his first year on a new team, and he's playing like how he was supposed to be when he came out of the draft.
And I agree with almost everything you said, that it's just the rushing yards, the receiving element of it, and his touchdown. He has explosive multi-touchdown games, and then at the same point, you realize that Hurts has taken most of the touchdowns inside the 3-yard line. So it's like that's another 5 touchdowns you could have tacked on if he was in a different situation, which of course is you could do with a lot of different players, but it's just something that's noteworthy when looking at his overall numbers, is that he could be scoring a lot more than he is on top of his yardage.
He's also averaging 5.9 yards per carry, and 5 yards on a first down opens up the offense to way more. So that's why also, I mean, if you're averaging 5.9 a carry, that should be a good reason why to win an award on top of your normal yardage.
Yeah, we'll move on. Defensive Player of the Year, we might be in agreement here. Who do you got, Ronan?
I'm going with Patrick Surtain.
I'm also going with Patrick Surtain.
I also think it should be Patrick Surtain.
All right, we'll move on to MVP. Who we got?
I have Lamar Jackson.
That's not a surprise. I got Josh Allen.
I also have Josh Allen.
Okay, odd one out again. Ronan, let's hear it.
Well, the definition of MVP is most valuable player, and, I'm going to look at the stats, and Lamar Jackson leads in completions, completion percentage, yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and in rushing stats, he leads all rushing stats except for touchdowns over Josh Allen. And, Josh Allen was great this year, don't get me wrong. And I get the argument that he's doing more with less. And, yes, Lamar has a better offense, better players surrounding him, but it just elevates Lamar. I mean, just adding Derrick Henry, this is Lamar's best season out of all his seasons. I think this is Lamar's best career year, and I think it's only going to get better. With Derrick Henry back there, it's only going to get better.
Real quick, you mentioned Derrick Henry. It took Derrick Henry being that offense, Lamar, to have a year like this. Josh Allen has nothing in his offense. Besides Amari Cooper, who's caught, 1 touchdown since being traded there? He has no other star receiver to be playing there. And you can make the case that Lamar doesn't have the star set of receiving core either. But Josh Allen is doing this with less of a run game than what Lamar has. I mean, Josh, I get it. Cook is having a good thing. The other running backs are having a good year. But Josh is also putting out 500 yards running. And I get what you're saying about Lamar, too. But to be honest, let's look at it. Even we looked at it last night, too. Last week's game. Josh was the better quarterback over Lamar. And it's not even a question. I mean, he's making better decisions what Lamar's doing all year. I feel like that's what MVP quarterback should be. It's the year Josh Allen is having this year, not what Lamar is having.
Okay, so I'll start with saying that for the interceptions thing, I don't know why everyone wants to bring up interceptions whenever Lamar Jackson has more total turnovers when you include fumbles. And fumbles usually give the defense better field position. So when you look at total turnovers, Josh Allen has him there. And also, if Josh Allen, he just being selected to the first team, he's the first all-pro quarterback to not have any other all-pro teammates since 2008. That speaks to how hard he's just really putting the team on the back and just taking them all that way to the second seed above the Ravens, which was why they had that home field advantage in the playoff game, which very well could have been the differentiating factor in the game. And then, of course, inside game, he had 127 passing yards. If you want to knock him for that, that's fine. But then you look at his best receiver on the year. Is it Shakir, who had 800 yards because no one else had over 600? Or is it Mac Hollins, the outright receiving catch and touchdown leader with 5? When you look at Josh Allen, there are almost no other notable players on that team. He lost Stephon Diggs, and he took a major step forward in every metric. And you can say what you want about Lamar's efficiency, but when you look at pure value brought to the team, if you take Josh Allen off that team, they're probably a bottom 5 team in the league. And with the Ravens, I can't say the same at all. I think they'd still be in the playoffs if you take Lamar off that team, especially this year. And then just Josh Allen's you're not supposed to take playoffs into account, but against each other, the head-to-head, you saw the turnovers Lamar Jackson made big mistakes, whereas Josh Allen, really, I can't point to anything he did wrong in that game, even though he wasn't clear, flat-out dominant. But when I'm looking in the big moment, I also see Josh Allen come through more often. So for all those reasons, I think Josh Allen should be the MVP this year.
Hey, Ronan, do you have a response?
Well, two things. I want to reinstate that this is Lamar Jackson's best passing year. His first MVP year, he had more rushing yards, and he also had more rushing touchdowns. Derrick Henry, let me say, has really elevated his passing game, and Lamar Jackson has become a much better passer. It's just gotten better, so that's one thing. And the other thing I want to say is that I would just say that if Josh Allen had 2 MVPs and Lamar had 0, I feel like everybody would be saying Lamar Jackson should win it.
Okay, but on the flip side of that, Lamar Jackson went off the narrative that the impact on the game matters more than the stats because Dak Prescott had a better statistical season than Lamar did. And then on top of that, you could have put Hill or McCaffrey over him in the statistical department for impressiveness compared to what we're used to seeing. But Lamar won it due to his impact, the team winning. And I think for those exact same reasons, if we're going to have a standard, we should follow it. And I think Josh Allen has proven in every way that he fits that criteria.
And I think we can both agree that the MVP might need to be redefined to really understand what that really entails.
I can agree with that. Yes.
Agreed.
Good stuff. Now we'll go on to Coach of the Year. Ronan, who do you have?
I have Dan Quinn.
Okay.
Give me Dan Campbell.
Give me Kevin O'Connell.
Okay, we got all across different answers here. We'll start with Ronan. What's your reason?
Okay, so those are both good picks. My reasoning is for Dan Quinn is he took a team that had 4 wins last year, and he took them to the playoffs. And yes, they were the 5 seed, but they had a rookie quarterback. And with rookies, sometimes the lights can be really bright. But for Jane Daniels to play the way he did, for Dan Quinn to get the coaching staff he did around him, like a guy like Cliff Kingsbury to really elevate Jane Daniels' game and bring out the best out of him, and then him bringing out the best out of everyone on that team because they all believe in him. I mean, if that's not a Coach of the Year, I don't know what is.
Okay, Brian.
How can you go against MCDC? I mean, this guy is making these players play. I mean, if you can even go off the field, these guys are ready to run through a brick wall for him every week, no matter how good or bad. From 3 years ago when they were on the bottom of the bucket till now when they're on top of the league. I mean, I get it. They just lost in the first round being the first seed. Mind you, this is the first time they've been the first seed since the 60s. How can you go against a coach that's changing an entire program? He's making history on a different team for the first time, and he's making Detroit actually believe in a football team. I mean, there's no way around it. I get Kevin O'Connell. He's went through a backup quarterback. He has Sam Darnold playing. And I get what you're saying. They went for a 4-win team. But neither of them are making franchise history records. And then that's what MCDC's doing. And he's taking kneecaps off with it. So, in my opinion, that's what a Coach of the Year should be. A guy who's as good on the field as he is off the field.
I'm speaking of kneecaps. I'm surprised you didn't say anything about the injuries. He worked through keeping the Lions afloat. But I'm going to go with Kevin O'Connell. The reason why, like he was saying about the rookie quarterback, you have your rookie quarterback, and then he's out for the year. So then you're on to the backup plan, and you still win 14 games. Like the Vikings, in my opinion, yes, the Lions are great, but the Lions were supposed to be great. The Vikings, even before McCarthy got injured, were not supposed to be great. He worked the highest above the pay grade, and just brought the team above heights that I think maybe you could argue the Commanders were at that area, of above expectations. But I think the Vikings, just their improvement and getting 14 wins in a division with the Lions is just a phenomenal feat, and it needs to be celebrated. And I think Kevin O'Connell deserves it.
Yeah. Now, Ronan, what do you think sets Quinn apart from Campbell and O'Connell?
I just think it's really the rookie quarterback and having everything right around him to get a whole team to believe in him, and then that just excel you. And they don't have the best team. They don't, but they have enough to keep them in the game, and they get wins off of they're the cardiac commanders. That's what they are. They stay in the game and give themselves a chance to win.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a hard one to talk about because it was 3 really, really good coaches. But to wrap it up, we obviously got past the divisional round. Who do we think is going to win the big game? Rapid fire, asking it again. Ronan, who you got?
Go with the Bills.
Okay.
Give me the Bills.
I said Kansas City. I'm staying Kansas City. So.
Going Washington with my chest. But that is all the time we have this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer Sideline.